Hello, during our last lesson, we learned how to solve an equation using our solving steps. So let's just review those real briefly. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to build what we're going to call a wall. That's to separate the right side and left side. That's to remind us whatever we do on the left side, we have to do on the right side. We always look at the side that has the variable on it. And we see that it's x minus 12. We want the x by itself, so we want minus 12 or negative 12 to go away. So we use what's called the inverse operation. That means the opposite. So since I see minus 12, I'm going to add 12. But I must do this on both sides of the equation. Okay, this is balancing the equation. Whatever I do on one side, I do on the other. And this solving step is crucial. We will start working on problems much more complicated, so we want to make sure that we understand how to do the basics. So what happens is these zero out. That's no longer there. But what is there is our variable. That's what we wanted. We wanted to isolate that variable. And on the other side, we have to complete our math or calculations, and 50 plus 12 is 62. And this is called a solution. Now we can check our solution to make sure. And so I would replace x with 62. Then the original problem says I should take away 12, and that should equal 50. And if that's true, then we know that our solution is the right answer. So now let's look at problems that are, you notice they have a little asterisk. They're a little bit more difficult. And that's because on the right-hand side, we have a negative number. And when we get to number 7, you're going to notice that it looks like perhaps our problem's written backwards. But the wonderful news is we can use the exact same solving steps on both of these problems. So our first step is to build the wall. Then we look on the side that has the variable. The left side has the variable. And it's y plus 12. So we're going to do the opposite of adding 12. We're going to subtract 12. So I'm going to do that on both sides. So this becomes 0, yay, leaving my variable y, which I'm going to drop down on the left side. And now this is where you have to be very careful. You can, in your calculator, put negative 15 minus 12. That's one way to arrive at the answer. Or you can put negative 15 plus negative 12. But what we don't want to do is have 15 take away 12 and think that it's 3. If we do it properly, we should get negative 27. It should be a 7. And this is where the check is very important. If I put in negative 27 and then I add 12, and again, you can use your calculator, it will give me back negative 15. So on problems that look like they're a little bit more challenging, it's always a great idea to do the check. Our last problem on this side is a problem that looks backward. You're going to notice that the answer to the equation is on this side, and the variable and the number that we're adding is on the right side. So it looks backwards. Now we have a couple choices. First of all, we could switch sides. If we wanted to, we could take everything on this side and bring it over here, and take everything, which just happens to be one number, on this side and bring it here. We could rewrite it like this. As long as that W and the plus 13 come together, we're good. And then it looks like just like the other problems. Now I'm going to go ahead and erase this, but you can choose to do that if you'd like. I want to show you that we can solve it how it is. So I'm going to build the wall just like we did above. I'm going to look at the side that has the variable. This time it's the right-hand side. I always start on the side that has the variable, and it's W plus 13. So I need to do the opposite of adding 13, or the opposite of positive 13. So I'm going to take away 13. That's the opposite. Or if you want to think about it as positive 13 and negative 13, that's fine too. So now this zeroes out on this side, leaving my variable W on the right side. That's okay. I bring down the equal, and 48 minus 13 would be 35. So hopefully this is the solution. And just like the other problems, we find the variable, which again is on the right-hand side. I'm going to replace it with the number 35. That's what we think the solution is. I'm going to add 13, and I want to know if that equals 48. And it does. So we know it's in the correct solution. So now let's go on to the next page. So I've created a step-by-step guide for you. And so the very first step is to build the wall to separate the sides of the equation. 2, start on the side where the variable is. 3, use the inverse or the opposite operation of the one that is given. So if it's adding, you subtract. If it's subtracting, you add. Whatever you do on one side of the equal sign must be done on the other side. Otherwise, it's incorrect and it's not balanced. Then you use the inverse operation, or using the inverse operation will isolate the variable on one side. That's what we want. We want the variable to be by itself. You then need to complete the calculation on the opposite side. And finally, circle your solution and complete a mental check, or you can actually write down the check as we've done to see if it's reasonable. So I'd like you to try this on your own. I am going to go ahead and complete one. You can pause and then you can come back and check. Okay, first of all, did you build a wall? That's step 1. Did you start on the side that has the variable? The variable's on the left side, so we looked at minus 14, and did you add 14? Do the opposite. Did you bring down the isolated variable, and did you do the calculation on the other side? And finally, a mental check or an actual check. 24 we think is the answer. So where the H is, I'm going to put 24, then I'm going to take away 14, and I'm going to see if that equals 10. So if you did all of that, then you are following the step-by-step guide. Would you go on to number 2? Again, pause the video and try it on your own. All right, hopefully you subtracted 25 on both sides. And the solution is y equals 28, and we added 28 plus 25, it was 53. Please try number 3. Pause the video. The solution is c equals negative 19. So we have plus 16. So it makes sense that my number, since my answer is a negative 3, and I'm adding 16 to it, it must be a negative number. Negative 19 plus 16, if you remember the integer rules, we would subtract, and then we would keep the sign of the number with the highest absolute value. So please pause the video and try number 4 on your own. Okay, so number 4 we can leave as is. We have to start looking on the right-hand side because that's where the variable is, and we undo it by adding 29 to both sides. Now, if you're uncomfortable with this, once again, you can take whatever is on the right side and move it over to the left and vice versa. But you just have to be very careful to take everything, the n, the minus, and the 29. This has to come over as one unit. So if we solve this, we would still, if we went ahead and used our solving steps, we're still going to get the same answer. In fact, it's still going to be the same process. We're going to add 29 to both sides. Then we're going to have n. This time it's just going to be on the left-hand side. And we're still going to get 61. And just to show our check, 61 minus 29 would indeed be 32. So I hope this was helpful. And we're going to continue to practice this. I know it's very difficult when you first start solving, but actually I think you're going to enjoy it as we move through this unit. Take care.